It is time for Flames Unfiltered, hosted by Burud, Kyle Lewis. Summer edition. You know what, Kyle? Summer editions are fun, but the break we have in between each episode seems long. It just seems long.
Yeah, then shit falls apart.
I know. Then we got
webcam issues. Not everybody wants to look at me anyway, but you know,
that will be changing next year because we're gonna run a full schedule next year. All the way through the off season, everything. We're gonna have a bunch of different Flames episodes to talk about, whether just a whole bunch of different ideas we got going. So that is good news. And this is the end of season 5, Kyle. And then we'll go on to season 6 in September.
We'll still be entitled to the occasional vacation in the off season.
Yes, but there'll be episodes where we're gone, believe it or not.
Like, yeah, we're gonna have shit in the pipeline. We're gonna have all kinds of content. All kinds of content. It's so weird. Like we've done this so little in the last little while that I was logged out and access to nothing. It's like I didn't even exist.
I couldn't even get my notes to come up on my computer, and because I run 2 different computers, and they feed off each other, and this one was just been stagnant for so long. It's like, crap,
blow a layer of dust off of it. So
yeah.
But the good thing about the summertime when it's relatively slow is that things pile up that we get to talk about. So we do have quite a few things to cover today.
Are you sick of summer though? Because I'm getting sick of it.
I'm sick of my job during the summer because it's too goddamn busy while everybody else is vacationing. But we're getting to that point where I would never wish it away. I wouldn't have any friends if I did. If they heard me say that, right? But I'm ready to turn that corner into fall. I think. I
don't know. I love the cool, crisp evenings. I love the fact that I'm not a football guy, but like I like sports. I like all sports. But like when football gets going, and then hockey's like right around the corner, and that gets me excited.
She's close, bud.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Well, yeah, and I've actually started to do up the NHL games I'll be attending this season. So I got tickets today for the Flames and Habs on November 5th in Montreal.
All right.
So we'll be attending that game, and I received unofficial confirmation today about the games that you and I will be attending in Winnipeg in January.
We're excited. We're definitely excited for that. I know I was actually doing the same thing yesterday. I was just kind of checking out. My kids wanted to get to a Flames game this year. I thought, we're going to go to Vegas for a week and just fly down for a quick game and get back.
Yeah, so, absolutely. I haven't done a game in Vegas yet. It's on the list though. But yeah,
it's really cool to go to a game in Vegas. It is really expensive to go to a game in Vegas. I don't know. I love the atmosphere though. Like just the area around the arena is just really cool, and it's a lot of fun. So I don't know. Hopefully we'll get to take the kids down there this year and go to a Flames game. I think we're looking like right around the last week of December. They're there, so
that'd be a cool time to go. Nice.
Yeah, shooting for that.
Yeah. So, sound like Cody Rhodes here. What do you want to talk about?
Where do you want to start? Let's start with. Go ahead. You pick. I don't
know. I think let's talk about Dustin Wolf's contract.
Okay, that's what I was going to throw. We're throwing. You know what? We've been doing this for 2 years now.
Yeah, we're kind of
thinking the exact same thing as that. So
nice.
We're starting to think alike. So that's good.
Terrifying. So yeah. So go ahead. Let's start with you. I want to hear your take on this.
Dustin Wolf 2-year extension, $850 a year. It's year 1, $850 NHL, $275 minors, $375 guaranteed. Year 2, $850 one way. This is honestly exactly what I expected. Does anybody expect anything different on this? Because I did see some pushback on X, and I was like, why would we want to pay him more?
Well, I think just the pushback is based on what people expect of him and the pedigree, right? In terms of everything he's accomplished. But I mean, this contract is exactly what it should be. I was a little surprised about the 2-way in
I'm not, because you have to have that. What if he gets off to a rough start? We have to have the ability to move him down and have him get his confidence. It's a safety blanket.
Yeah, it's cool. And I
think I mean what time, but
no, I mean it's all things considered. I mean it's a good deal. I mean it's the crease is his to lose at this point.
I agree.
To say nothing of Dan Vladar, the birthday boy yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
So Vladar is still a really good NHL goaltender, and I think it's going to be. I don't think it'll quite be a split, but maybe close, and he'll have an opportunity to prove it as well. But I mean, Dustin Wolf will never have this good of an opportunity again in his career to claim an #1 spot.
I think there'll be a lot of split time this year, and I think that's good because I think that this team's not going to provide a ton of defensive help. So I don't want to see us burn Wolf out and have him struggle, right? Yeah. And I think Dan Vladar's a great goalie. Now I know I'll get pushed back on this because people be like, "Well, Dan Vladar's done nothing," and you can say that, but he's had some good stretches for the Flames, and he's really
absolutely.
I don't know. He's been playing injured too. So let's give him a chance here, and let's not. So many people want to throw him to the garbage can already, and I'm like, come on, guys. I think a Wolf Vladar tandem sounds really good if we can have both of them pan out. Now that is a big what if because we got Wolf has 17 games NHL, and Vladar has under 100, I believe. I know that's under 100. I know it's under 100.
Yeah, it's very, very few, but it's going to be fun. I mean, it's going to keep things interesting this year because, there's so many unknowns around the team, and it's like, is Kuzmenko going to, tear it up like he did when he joined the Flames? I mean, his skill level's off the charts, right? Is Anthony Mantha going to score 30 now that he's given all the opportunity he has? Which goaltender is going to emerge? Are they both going to have good seasons? Who's the first call up on defense for all the young, good defensemen that we have? There's so many fun storylines to watch, Pospisil and Zari and, their sophomore season. So, at the very least, we'll have tons to talk about, and it's going to be entertaining.
I agree. Is it going to be a banner year for the Flames? Probably not, but
quite unlikely. And to be honest, maybe I'm just ever the optimist, which is not how anybody who knows me would necessarily describe me, but I can see this team being quite a bit better than people expect them to be. I don't see them in a playoff spot, but I think they might challenge one right up until maybe February.
And I don't. Well, I'd love to see that happen. And I'm not trying to be Mr. Negative here. I do think this year will be a tough year, and the year after will probably be a tough year. But you know what? We've seen teams like Vancouver turn a page quickly.
Yep.
Now, I'm a little bit afraid, and we'll talk about this in some of the preseason shows we do here in September. I don't know that Vancouver doesn't fall back a little bit this year. But that being said, I don't know that. I mean, rebuilds don't have to be long rebuilds, right? I mean,
well, not if they're done correctly.
If they're done correctly, we can 3-year phase in here. Now, will we a cup contender in 3 years? No, but I mean, we're probably working back into a playoff contention. I would think. I would hope.
Oh yeah, I expect so. I mean, it's like the 14-15 team that kind of came out of nowhere and grabbed a playoff spot. That kind of thing is possible. A couple years from now, maybe. But we'll have to see how it all pans out. But it's going to be. This is the first real. I guess the first real rebuild wherein we have cashed in on a lot of outgoing contracts. We're getting virtually nothing for Jerome McGinley, Jay Bouwmeester. You think about the last time the team really had to reset. Nothing for Kiprusoffs. There's a lot to be excited about around this team, a hell of a lot. And that includes guys like, Jeremy Poirier missing so much time with injury last year. He was on a total heater last year and would have been called up had he not gotten injured, right? So it's not just the guys we just drafted that people are excited about. It's all the guys who've been developing this whole time. It's the prospect pool is pretty deep, and a lot of them are going to get chances, so it's going to be fun.
Going back to Dustin Wolf just for a short minute here. He's 23 years old. He's got 17 NHL games, a .893 save percentage. I mean, what are we with the team in front of him this year? What would you say is a successful season for him?
Save percentage over 900. GAA around 3, maybe a little less, because I think that's reasonable given how many chances he's going to have against. And 20-some wins, I'll say.
Yeah,
and his first NHL shutout. I want to see one shutout at him.
Yeah, you're a big shutout guy.
Big shutout. What do you got? What are you thinking?
I definitely think I'm going to take the win part of it and throw it in the garbage. Not that
that's a hard one to predict, to be fair. But I think if he split time and he gets around 20, if he's around a 500 goaltender, that'd be great. But
I'm going to take goals against average with a grain of salt. I think it will be over 3. It's 3.16 right now, and I mean 17 games. I know, but I think the biggest thing is I think we need to see a comfort factor, and I also think we need to see a .90 or higher. Right? I think that's what's going to determine the future. Now, obviously, we're not going to, if he struggles this year, right off Dustin Wolf in one season. But I think it's important too that we don't jump the gun and hand him the keys and say, hell or high water, make this work, right? Yeah. That is why I believe, we have that option to send him down waiver exempt. He's can go down. We can, have Devin Cooley there as a security blanket and get to also see what Dan Vladar is, because this year is not only to see what Dustin Wolf is going to be for the Flames, it's as importantly to see what Dan Vladar is. He isn't his last year of a 2-year contract. He'll be a UFA. We need to know what the future is with Dan Vladar. Is he going to be the 1B, or where are we going with him? So it's really an important year for him coming off an injury.
Well, and Cooley as well, who seems to be kind of a dark horse candidate to be a decent NHL goaltender. So lots of question marks, but lots of things to look forward to and see how they unravel. And there's so little certainty around all these goaltenders that it's going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah. Some contracts signed. Adam Klapka re-signs a 1-year, 2-way deal, $775. Jan Kuznetsov signs. The D-man signs a 1-year, 2-way, $775. Exact same thing. Your thoughts on these signings?
Pretty run-of-the-mill. I'm glad they both happened because Kuznetsov and Klapka both had really good years, I think. Klapka is a really fun player to watch and was a huge part of the Wranglers. Kuznetsov's going to get a long look on D. Klapka, I think we'll see at least a handful of games with the Flames. Something of a make or break year for both in terms of what the future of the organization is. So very standard issue type contracts. I think based on the amount of guys that are going to be pushing for jobs the next few years that we've drafted, this we're going to decide whether to continue with these guys or cut bait. And it's good for the team and it's good for them because they can pursue opportunities elsewhere if it doesn't pan out, or maybe we've got some found gold here in both these guys. And both of them were excellent, for large portions of last season. Klapka is a really interesting one to me in terms of a project that's such a big guy. And he could be somebody who surprises in training camp. So again, the contracts make sense, but we'll see how it pans out.
I got a feeling Kuznetsov is going to be the guy that turns some heads. I do.
Yep.
I really do. Now there is some other contracts that are not happened yet that we should probably touch on. Right now, in the NHL, there's 21 RFAs that needs contracts this season. A couple of them come out of Calgary. Sloviov is yet to be signed, and Cole Schwint and Jacob Pelche. And where do we go with those three?
There seems to be a lot of optimism around Cole Schwint. I guess we'll start with him, thinking that he's something of a, not a shoe-in, but damn near it for like a fourth line role. He's shown well at every other level. I'm not sure how he projects going forward, but I expect that he's going to sign probably a 1-year deal, same as the other two we just mentioned. And kind of see where that goes. But I expect he'll be in and out of the lineup throughout the season, so I assume he'll sign relatively soon. And there's always that glut of signings towards the end of August, right? So, this could change within days. The big question mark to me, Solovyov, I think is also a formality. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because he showed well. He's earned a contract. One thing at a time.
I would agree with both of those for sure.
Yeah. So not a lot to pay attention to there necessarily, but Pelche is interesting to me because he basically lost a season of his development. He came in hot as a rookie. I remember I think it was his first goal against Buffalo. I was in Edmonton at the time in his rookie season. And obviously I know the guy, know his body work quite well because he was captain here of Moncton before he traded to Val-d'Or and he was in the queue. I don't know what he is now at the NHL level. I mean, that type of injury is concerning. It can affect you mentally in terms of your willingness to go into the corners, but he's also a resilient guy with a fantastic attitude, a ball of energy. But I don't know. I honestly, with him, it's kind of a 1-year deal to me as well, maybe 2, but there's no long-term commitment here, obviously.
This is a really hard one because, I think there's upside there, but we haven't seen it yet. And is there a reason we haven't seen it? Yes, he's been injured.
Yeah.
But is he going to be able to work through, I'm not just saying the injury, but his size and turn into that player that we hoped as a first-round pick? I don't know. Some days I see it and I'm like, yeah, he's gonna. And then some days I'm like, no, he's not. But I could say that for 95% of the roster, right?
Yeah.
As far as a contract goes, I don't see you. I think he's looking for something bigger and more long-term and a little bit more NHL secure. I don't know that you can give that right now with all the young talent this team has.
Would you, and I think I would, just because you'll throw this back at me, I'm sure, would you go 2-way deal this year, 1-way the following year on a 2-year deal? That, the 775, whatever.
Yeah, because I'll know after this year and I can waiver him next year. And
it's not even just the waiver ability. It's anytime you have a guy who's a first round pick, the consensus around the league always seems to be like, if he didn't pan out somewhere, he's a former first round pick. It's the same thing as saying he's a Stanley Cup winner. So somebody's taking a flyer on this guy. You're going to get a late round pick to trade him somewhere else if you don't waive him. If he doesn't overcome his injury or doesn't pan out like we all hope that he does. So that, again, being a former first-round pick means a lot in this league. So he's still an asset. Now I'm kind of talking myself into it.
I'm not saying he's not. I'm not going to argue that with you. I'm just saying that would I feel comfortable doing that? I would not feel comfortable giving him a 1-way next year. I will say that.
No, because he has to earn it. And by no fault of his own did he have the opportunity to earn it, right? I remember that injury vividly against Seattle in the preseason. Yeah, right, basically right at center ice, and it wasn't pretty. Again, it's a hard one to come back from, but he deserves the benefit of the doubt in that 2-way deal for 1 year, and then the next year you could do 1-way, whatever you want to pay him around the league minimum or so. But he's got a lot to prove. I expect he's going to have a really strong training camp, though, and I certainly hope he does because I love the guy and have since he first played here.
I hope so too. I just wonder, like, let's say he does work out, which was what I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
How does he fit in the mix with all the prospects that we hope work out? I mean, obviously we know.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I don't think
aren't going to work out, right? Let's just look at the numbers plain and clear. And unfortunately, in Calgary, it seems like sometimes the numbers of the guys that don't work out are greater than the guys that work out, right? And we're hoping to change that a little bit. And I believe this franchise has kind of turned a slight corner on draft success.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how. I don't think you could get as bad as we were through the early 2000s, right?
I don't know that any team could be that bad at drafting and developing, and more so drafting in hindsight. And that actually brings something else up we'll talk about here shortly in terms of another former Flames draft pick. The thing with Peltier is he's really, he's a jack of all trades, master of none. He doesn't project as a hand scorer in the NHL, but he's the kind of guy that will be an excellent penalty killer, fit in serviceably on a scoring line, but also be really effective in an energy checking role. So that kind of gives him, a unique fit in the lineup, especially where we have all these other, prospects that project to be better scorers than he is. So I think if he pans out, I don't think he's going to be taking a spot away from someone who's a better scorer, and I also don't think that he's exactly the kind of guy you want on your bottom six, right?
Who has a better chance of panning out, Matthew Coronado or Jacob Peltier? Probably not a fair question, but I'm still asking it.
It's a podcast. We're not supposed to ask fair questions. Because of the different skill sets, and despite the injury, I'll say Peltier. I like Coronado's game. I love his shot, but Peltier has the intangibles that can land you a job in this league, even if it's not the one that you foresaw, right?
Yeah. No, I'm with you because Coronado doesn't have the versatility.
Exactly. And again, I had high hopes for Colorado last year, when I embarrassed myself talking about him in one of our preseason shows.
You remind people where you predicted?
It's all well. You know what? When he scored his first goal against Pittsburgh, that was a hell of a shot, and that's the kind of stuff I expected from more regularly. But
I expected much more pop out of him last year, didn't you?
I did, but I also, I got to see him. I got to see him play with the Wranglers a bit, and I followed him a little more closely last season. And I think. At least myself, I felt he was maybe a step ahead of what he really was, right? Wow. So with that in mind, and by no means am I an expert, but it's like, you know what, this is the year maybe he takes more of a step forward. Maybe he does establish a full-time role with the Flames. Maybe he puts up 15 goals and 30 points. Like, I don't know. We'll see how it works out for him, but I still have high hopes for him. But again, I think Peltier is a safer bet just because of how versatile he is, as you said.
I think the door's wide open for Coronado. I do.
Oh, yeah. This team
I think it might be a little more tricky for Peltier. I do. I think it might be a little tricky.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all.
One contract I just want to talk about quickly, and then we'll move on because we focus on it quite heavily last show, was Oliver Kylinton. He does sign in Colorado at 1.05 million, a 1-year deal. We pretty much rehashed this last episode, and we don't need to go into that any further other than Were you surprised with Colorado, and how do you see a fit there?
I never really thought much about where he would wind up, so much as that he wouldn't wind up in Calgary. Great opportunity for him to play some skilled players. I guess the one thing that's changed for me a bit, and maybe it's because things have changed in my life as they do for everybody. It's like the fact that he left, and I agree with everything that you and many others have said about you don't owe the Flames, but you kind of do. It just in terms of that basic handshake type loyalty that seems to be scarce in today's world. But the flip side of that I've thought more about more recently, it's like obviously he's gone through some stuff. We touched on there seems to be a family issue there. We're not going to get into all the rumor and innuendo, but he said so much himself. There's just that innate desire that comes, when something in your life changes, that you want as many changes as possible. Whether you want to move away, which in this case he is, move to a new job, which is what he's doing. Like, I kind of get that. You want something new.
You can turn it two ways though too. He's got a support network in Calgary. He doesn't have that in Colorado.
No, but I mean, he'll build one. But I mean, there's just a certain escapism that I think that comes with that, and we're all guilty of it at times. And again, I don't agree with the decision. I think if the Flames wanted him back, he should have at least signed a 1-year deal, in my opinion. But again, it's his life and his prerogative. And I'm excited. I'm sorry?
If I had to guess what happened, I think his agent said, like, hey, I think I can get you more than what Calgary's saying. And that fell through. Obviously, we've heard rumors of that, and there are all kinds of talk of that. But, I mean, there's no way that the Calgary Flames didn't offer at least more than 1.05 for 1 year, right? I just don't believe in that.
Yeah, and I think most of us do based on the year he had prior. But as we talked about in the last show, he had the best defense partner anybody can ask for in Chris Tanev when he had his breakout season on a team that was just firing on all cylinders in 2022. So I don't know entirely what Colorado's getting, but at this point, I have to admit I'm really excited by the fact that our defense, there's now an opening for somebody else to grab a spot, or a Jeremy Porte or a Kuznetsov for somebody to really grab their opportunity.
I have no idea what Colorado's getting because last year he never wowed me at all. I do know what they potentially could be getting.
Yep.
And I do see him as a pretty solid fit on the third pairing for the Colorado Avalanche. And a difficult situation. And you know what? Quite honestly, Kyle, when I'm glad we don't have to talk about a whole bunch more now.
Well, because it drug on so long, whether it was his absence, whether it was expiring contract, I'm over it, and I'm glad that I think most Flames fans will see it the same way. It's like, okay, this is best of luck, and respectfully and truthfully, sincerely, best of luck.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Talk a little bit about Martin Pospisil and the national team.
So we've had some discussions in the past, you and I, about the politicization of sports. And this is where I struggle a bit, because the conjecture from the Pospisil camp about their willingness or unwillingness to participate with the national team based on Russia's invasion of Ukraine and how that's been dragging on for quite some time now. It's a really tricky position, I can only imagine, to be in when you have strong political, cultural, religious, whatever they might be, convictions, but you also have a career and a livelihood and a family, or even ambitions of a family, which is best served by representing your country, right? It's a hard spot to be in.
I don't know though, because quite honestly, let me throw this back at you. You can think that way, and I don't necessarily agree or disagree with it, but you can flip it and say, okay, so he goes and plays with his country and he blows his knee out and he's never the same. Then he did actually bad for his family, right? I mean, stuff happened. And I'm just saying, you got to stick to your heart and your beliefs in life, right?
I mean, that can happen, but it can also happen in the NHL. I mean, my point is that by playing on a national stage, conceivably he's going to make himself more attractive, the next time he hits free agency or in the context of a trade. He showed really well on the world stage. All I'm saying is that it's really fucking stupid for anybody on the outside looking in to say, well, Putin's a tyrant and Pospisil should do this. I'm not saying I disagree with what you're saying, but you can't tell this young player what he should or shouldn't do, because it's a tough spot to be in. And that's my stance on it. And ultimately, his decision is his. I just think it's really condescending and unfair for people to think that it's an easy spot to be in, or this is what he should do. Yeah, if we can all say what we should do from our armchairs, drinking a beer, watching the westernized news, which isn't to say anything about anyone's views on this whole conflict, because I have my own feelings too. But it's like, don't tell me that's an easy choice for him, because I guarantee you it isn't.
And you know what? In society, we need a little bit more people respecting people's opinions.
But okay. Well, and that's just it, man. And I was saying this, in my own job yesterday, just about the need to put your hand up and tell people, like, hey, I need a minute, or hey, wait your turn, or this isn't acceptable, or that's not acceptable. Like, and you can't talk to people a certain way, you can't behave a certain way, right? Like, you got to hold yourself to a higher standard, and we all struggle with it at times, and I'm no different. But I hate that prevailing attitude of, this person should do this and this is the right thing. It's like, yeah, get the fuck off your soapbox and get over yourself. Like, anyway, end rant.
A little bit more Flames talking, and we got to talk about some things going on around the league that are kind of affecting the Flames. But I look at this year's roster, and I look at the additions, and I look at the subtractions, and I don't know how I feel, to be honest with you. I mean, Markstrom's gone, Osterley's gone, Kylinton, Gilbert, Majapandi, and Greer.
How did Esterly wind up second on your list? That was amazing.
Because he was important. Lomberg, Mantha, Ball, Bean, Cooley are the guys in.
Mm-hmm.
We say it every year, and every fan base says it. I like the guys we got coming in. Well, we'll see, right? We'll form our opinions over the coming months. But I look at last year's starting lineup and opening night, and I look at what's projected to be this year's. And
it's brutal.
We've got a different team, man. We've got a really different team, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys that were on last year's opening night roster on this year's.
Yeah.
It's a different roster. And
it's unbelievably different. And Flames Nation did a really cool article comparing the 13-14 Flames and that rebuild to the current version. Okay. Somehow that version did not finish dead last and was surprisingly competitive. And this team on paper for 24-25 is way, way better on paper.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But the changes are astronomical.
It's just going to be really interesting to see, like, how Pospisil and Zari's sophomore season, which for many players is a difficult one, how that works out. Is Kadri going to be able to keep things rolling like he, did last year? Is Kuzmenko a legitimate scorer that we want to keep on this team? Or does Sharon Govich build from last year's success?
Yeah. And
do we get Huberdeau of Florida, or do we get Huberdeau of Calgary?
Well, I think we're going to get hopefully something in the middle. Huberdeau from Florida is going to be a hard thing to get these days. But also, just quickly on Kadri, his book's coming out this fall. Which is
you scared to read it?
No, not at all.
Really, I am.
It's interesting to me because it's not often a player releases a book mid-career, so I expect to be a lot of stuff about his challenges growing up and getting into the game and all that. But I suspect it'll be quite interesting. But again, as we said the outside of the show, and to what you just said now, just to echo that, there are so many questions and so few answers around this team. And if you watch Robert Munich, who writes for Flames Nation, did a compilation of Kuzmenko last season with Calgary. The fucking guy's a dynamo. Unreal. His shot and release, the plays he makes. Like, that guy's going to hit probably, if he plays this way again, 70-some points and be a huge trade piece at the deadline. As I expect, Mantha will be too. Maybe not as much as Kuzmenko, but I mean, we can cash out and continue to stock the cupboards or get really good young players in return. Like, this is going to be fun. It's going to be painful a lot of the time too, but it's going to be fun.
Do you want to cash out, or do you want to put him as part of the future? You need some older guys.
No, I don't want to do that. It's going to take too long. Kuzmenko is older than we think because he's only been in the league a few years, right?
I know. We think.
But if the guys love it here and they want to stay on a team-friendly contract, whatever that looks like, then yeah, I'm here for it. I'm cool with that.
I found an article in the Athletic last week or 2 weeks ago, and it was about they graded every team on how the public perceives them and how their fan base perceives them.
Right.
And I read the Calgary part of it, and I laughed. And I just want to see what your initial take is on this. So in roster building, the public graded him as a D, and the fan base graded him as a B minus. Cap management, the public grades him as a C minus. The fan base says B plus. Draft and development, the public says C minus. The fan base says A minus.
This is
okay. Just hear me out here. Trading, the public says that Flames trades have been D pluses. The fan base says B minus. Free agency, the public says D plus. The fan base says B minus. Vision for the future, the public says D plus. The fan base says B.
What the? All right.
So I read it. I just kind of chuckled, and I'm like, "Well, who are they asking?" Or like, these sound like presidential polls. Like, who are we asking?
So,
they're so vague, right? I mean, they're so arbitrary to.
It's just
who you're talking to, right?
Such so much bias in all of this. It's anyway.
And I chuckled and I saw that because I just thought, what would I say? Like roster building. How do I grade something when I have no idea right now? Do I like the direction we're going? Yeah, I would say so. I think we've been really good.
The roster's not even built yet.
No, it's not even close.
We're not building a roster for this season. We're building a roster for 2-3 seasons from now. Yeah. Maybe, I mean,
I look at this, and you see the things like trading. What are we judging trades from previous GMs, or are we just talking about the ones that our current GM is doing?
Yeah,
it's pretty vague, right? I mean, it's like
if it's the one our current GM is doing, if it were that, it's like, okay, show me a trade that he's lost.
Well, I would say so far so good, right? Like we don't half of these we don't even know really, right? Yeah. I mean,
it's just a bunch of.
Yeah. I just find it interesting of all the stuff that's really out there, and I don't know.
It's entertaining as all hell, but it's also frustrating because it's so mindless. And like there was something. I responded something the other day. Let's see if I can find it while I talk about something else, because there's another piece of news I meant to text you about and I forgot. As it pertains to a former Flames prospect and the MVP of the 2001 St. John Flames Calder Cup champions in the AHL. Okay. Steve Bégin. Did you hear about this? Steve Bégin, so twice a Calgary Flame, including his last season in the league, which I want to say was 12-13. Former Boston Bruin as well, Montreal Canadian, claimed bankruptcy.
Okay.
Apparently, by his own admission, from a failed business venture. And he shared this publicly. And this is a guy, obviously didn't make significant earnings by NHL standards, but had a lengthy professional hockey career. And Bégin used his own experience in terms of claiming bankruptcy as a cautionary tale to other people and shared it via social media. So I thought that was very interesting. And I also think that there's a good opportunity for guys like him and the guys like Jack Johnson, who lost all his money, to his parents allegedly, to use this experience to caution young athletes in terms of how to invest their money and how to protect themselves longer term. I thought it was a little awkward at first that he felt the need to share it publicly. And I thought, this is a good thing, because there's too many kids making too much money who don't know the pitfalls of it. And obviously Bégin post-playing career, and he played very, very tough and very rough. Like when he won MVP with the St. John Flames, he was beat to pieces. Yeah. Stitches, black eyes, you name it. Like, for him to make a living doing anything else was always going to be a challenge, I believe. So for him to share that experience and talk about it and tell people what happened to him, I think is a really, really important thing. And he should be proud of himself for doing that.
Yeah. Interesting. I did not see that.
Yeah.
One thing I did see, a bad news story, I guess. It's a bad news story. Jeff Marek out at Sportsnet. And the reason I say bad news is like his show every day at noon, I watched it. I mean, I had it on at my work every single day and I listened to him. I think Jeff Marek is one of the greatest hockey guys to listen to. I really enjoyed his show, and I did a little research into what actually happened, and supposedly networks are privy to draft pick selections seconds, minutes prior to them being over the air so that they can prep graphics.
Yeah, the analysis, etc. Yep.
He was tweeting them out, or not tweeting them out, messaging them out to
I think he was tweeting it via burner account too, wasn't he?
I did not hear that.
I had heard that. Regardless, he was sharing them
with a colleague that was tweeting them out or like instantly tweeting them out, which the league caught wind of, and evidently from what I've heard in my research is the league told Sportsnet, figure this out, and Sportsnet just let him go, which, I mean, he shouldn't have done that. Yeah. I mean, he shouldn't have done that. Right?
I'm not sure what his objective was in doing that.
I know. I can't. He seems like such a genuine guy. I just have a hard time believing that he'd just be like, I don't know. It caught me off guard. It really did.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a co-host of the most popular hockey podcast out there, 32 Thoughts. Like,
yep.
That's huge.
Well, and he was able to bring out what people wanted from Elliot Friedman, right? In a way that made it really accessible. Like, his role, I feel, was always very underrated in that show.
And Elliot Friedman's like my favorite, but Jeff Marek ran that show.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, he ran the show and Elliot was there for his insight, right? Jeff Marek ran the deal, and that show's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same. And I look at that and I'm also a little surprised that he's went off the radar completely, and we haven't heard any rumblings of him showing up on any other network or sites. And I have a hard time believing that we won't, because
we will. I just think there's a cooling off period there, right? Both for him and potential employers, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Usually happens with breakups and that kind of stuff, It's just like everybody just chill out for a little while. Keep your head down. Not to say I'm any kind of an expert, but yeah, keep your head down. So what I wanted to mention was a tweet. I forgot all about it until just now, but Leaf Singh had tweeted, "Let's rank Canadian team captains." So Leaf Singh ranked Matthews number 1, who has not captained a single game for the Maple Leafs yet. 2 McDavid, 3 Hughes, 4 Lowry, parenthesis, I had to Google this, 5 Kachuk, 6 Backlund, also had to Google 7 Suzuki. So the Leafs guy puts the Habs captain at the bottom of the list, puts his captain top, even though he's never captained the team yet. My response was, how are you able to rank captains if you had to Google 2 of them? Because if I had to guess, Adam Lowry is probably the best captain on this list.
I would actually say that. I would agree with that.
That kind of stuff, I shouldn't let it bother me.
Probably right up there too. I mean, like,
probably.
I mean, we don't know. We're not in the room.
No, but but the Leafs guys got to be top and the Habs guys got to be bottom. I don't know these 2 schmucks, but they're not very good captains. It's like, dude, shut the hell up. If you don't, again, this is the thing I like about doing this show with you, is we're not ignorant of other teams. We talk about other teams and other things, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, we're going to have our opinions, and people aren't always going to agree with our opinions, but I'll tell you one thing. If you reach out to me in argument of one of my opinions, I'm listening to your side.
100%. Backlund's the best captain in all the Canadian teams. No, he's probably not. Maybe he is. I don't know. Anyway.
We'll find out, right?
Well, he's not going to captain to a Stanley Cup, so maybe that doesn't make him the best captain. I don't know.
Let's talk about other teams quick here before we let people move on with their day. Offer sheets, trades, and holy hell going up in Edmonton here.
Yeah. I don't know what the hell the Blues are doing, but it was kind of entertaining.
I do.
Oh, well, then please enlighten me.
You're doing what another team in the Pacific should have done. Putting their foot on the throat of the Edmonton Oilers and pushing the limits. Edmonton put themselves into cap hell, and St. Louis called them out on it. And I did hear today that they were not the only team that was going to do offer sheets.
Yeah, Doug Armstrong was pretty frank in his assessment of why he did it, or his feelings about doing it, I should say, and good for him. Like, it is a tool. I know, everybody remembers the Brian Burke, Kevin Lowe, mess like 15 years ago. It's a tool that teams can use, and it is a fitting punishment for teams that put themselves in these cap situations.
I think we're going to see more of it. I do. I think this might open the floodgates. Broberg gets 2 years, $4.5 under the limit for more draft picks, which is just awesome. Holloway is 2.2, and they both go to St. Louis, as it came out yesterday, and Edmonton gets a 2025 second and third in compensation. And I think it's awesome that St. Louis had to go get their draft pick back that they had traded so that they could do this. Like, that is freaking classic.
Well, it's just like, and when I say like what St. Louis is doing, like they kind of fell off a cliff in terms of being a competitive team, and they're trying to retool on the fly. I think with these types of signings, and they're good players. I mean, Broberg, was in the AHL, I think, for at least the first part of the season.
Yeah, he had a good playoffs. He did.
He had a very good playoff, but it's one playoff, right?
I'm with you, but
so I don't know.
It's okay. Here's the deal. It's a roll of the dice. They had the cap space, right?
Yeah.
So they rolled the dice. It's no different than drafting somebody high, and I mean, it's 4.5 million. I get it, and it's 2 years, but they rolled the dice. So if it doesn't work out, they trade them next year. Figure it out. They'll get something. I mean, it's not all lost, right? If it works out for them, then they got 2 good players. What I'm shocked is, okay, so Edmonton gets rid. They make some trades this week too, and they free up. It looks like what they're doing is freeing up cap space by getting CC gone, which
they got lucky with that one.
Which that pisses me off that San Jose is that idiotic.
I don't know. I don't know what Mike Grier's plan is in San Jose, but anyway,
the plan is to lose because you do not give you don't let a division rival off the hook by taking Cody Ceci, which actually makes Edmonton better defensively, not having him. I don't understand what San Jose was doing there. But anyways, I thought when that happened that I thought that Broberg was going to get re-signed. I thought Holloway was gone.
I did too. Yeah, I did.
I thought Broberg was going to get re-signed, and it didn't happen. And I don't know. It did not happen the way I thought it was going to be, and both of them end up in St. Louis.
Yep. Yeah, it was interesting.
Another thing that I didn't understand this week is what is Vancouver doing? I mean, not that Podkolzin, he goes to Edmonton, and not that Podkolzin showed us anything in the league, but good gracious, you get a 4th round pick for him? That's it? That's all you could get? And then you send him to a division rival? Yeah. You mean to tell me like Ottawa or Buffalo wouldn't have given you a 4th round pick and get him out east, get him away?
Well, you know what though? It seems to me like, remember when Steve Stamkos got traded to Calgary from Edmonton?
Yeah.
Like this kind of stuff, like the trading within the division is not as sacrilege as it once was. Obviously, it's changed a lot in the last few years.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think maybe it's largely because teams recognize where those division rivals are, right?
Yeah.
Calgary had exactly what Vancouver wanted to try and get themselves over the hump. Didn't pan out, but they were ballsy moves, and man, did it work out great for Calgary. And now for the 2 guys in Boston making all kinds of money. But anyway, it's just that narrative has really shifted a lot. That team has what we want. We're going to grab it. Or Vancouver, for whatever he wants to get rid of this kid. Hey, here you go. You're losing Holloway. You want this guy? He's yours. Like it's. I'm not sure what's behind all the narrative, but it's definitely shifted. It's very interesting to me.
Yeah. 2 more quick things to talk about. What was your take on the Ryan Johansson buyout / contract? Not buyout. It's not a buyout. It's a contract termination. Did you hear the backstory to this?
I did not.
Okay, so here's what I heard today. He was traded from Colorado to Philly last year. They had him take morning skate. After morning skate, which he was healthy and took, after morning skate, he said he refused to go down to the American Hockey. They were going to send him down to the American Hockey League. He refused to go, stating an injury. Went the whole summer, stated an injury, so they couldn't do the buyout, right? You can't buy somebody out who's on injured reserve, right? So they contacted Colorado, found absolutely no record of a hip injury that would require surgery that would take out all of next year. No record of it.
Right.
So Philly said, that's not a reported injury. You haven't played a game for us. We traded for you unknowing of this injury. That's a breach of contract. The league said, yep, that's fine. And so contract terminated. Now there's an appeal from the National Hockey League Players Association. But the real thing that I thought was funny in the timing of this is he got married last week, and there's supposedly video of him lifting his wife over his head in celebration at the wedding with a hip that is not good enough to play hockey with, which he wants is 6 or 8 million. I can't remember which it is. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that one all plays out. A complicated, crazy story.
Unconditional waivers following material breach of contract, which means,
Yes.
ooh, there's a story.
Yes. Exactly.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, he's kind of, I hate to use this word, but it's kind of funny. He's kind of washed at this point. So,
yeah, exactly.
The next guy to sign a league minimum deal somewhere else is.
But he's injured.
Well.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Top goalie prospect Askarov has informed the Preds that he will not report to camp this year. Or he will not report to the AHL this year. So.
That big resume to 31 other teams.
What do you think happens there?
Well, it's a little disrespectful on his part because he just drove his value down for his team. So I'd make him sit if I were them.
That's what they said they're going to do. They said we expect him to report.
Yeah, it's the right play. He wants to make a move like that, either whether he said himself or his agent. I didn't see exactly how it came out, just that it did. It's like, hey, you know what? You want to screw with us? We're going to screw with you. You can sit and rot. You know?
See what happens.
Yeah, they're
going to get a good haul for him. They're going to get a good haul for him.
Well, they should if they hold out for a while. And I remember, I said this before. I criticized the shit out of Joe Sakic for doing it, Matt Duchene, years ago, and he was right. The Predators need to do the same thing with Askarov. Until they get a deal that suits them, let them sit.
Yeah.
So the other thing, I mean, as much as I like the guy's skill set, I'm not sure I'd take a flyer on him because of that attitude, but I digress. The other thing we should talk about is the Line A trade to Montreal.
Yeah. Well, we'll touch on it quick here. Yes.
Yeah. So I know I've got some buddies in and around the Columbus organization. I know that Line A was not revered there for a variety of reasons and is considered, not, I wouldn't say he's a bad teammate necessarily, but he's a different cat. Okay. I'll leave it at that. He's got a hell of a shot. And I remember it's so funny to think just a few short seasons ago, the Leafs are in Winnipeg and the Jets fans are chanting, Line A's better. And I'm like, looking back on that, it's like, wow, did that ever turn out not to be the case? But this is a guy who.
And that he was a better scorer than Matthews. I did. I got to admit.
He probably could be as good a scorer, or damn near it, under the right circumstances. And he said, I don't want to score 30. I want to score 40 or 50 in Montreal. And they got some talent there. He's going to score some goals. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it pans out.
He wasn't happy in Winnipeg, so he wanted to go to Columbus. Well, then he was happy in Columbus. Then he wasn't happy 2 weeks later. Yeah. How is he going to handle the media in Montreal? Like, I don't know. I think they're going to eat him up.
I would expect so, but he's a unique talent with a hell of a shot, and he should be on the first power play, top line minutes. I mean, he's going to have every chance to prove the Habs right. And Montreal, they're a young team with a lot of talent, trying to get better. And if he pans out, I mean, that's a lot of scoring power from the wings. So
there's definitely.
Yeah. I'm optimistic for them, but also cautiously so, very much cautiously so. Yeah.
A couple things and we'll get on the road here. X Factor will be back for season 6. We don't have one this week just simply because it's off season. Not a lot of Flames chatter on X.
Yeah, us doing a show in late August is an X Factor. There you go.
Yes. And that will be back for season 6. Young Stars comes up in Penticton February 13th, 14th, and 16th as the Flames Young Stars will stake on Winnipeg, Edmonton, and Vancouver. Preseason gets going September 22nd against Seattle. Some new followers in the last couple of weeks here on Facebook. We're getting all kinds of them here. Jerk Singer, Benny Winkle, Bill Williams, Scott Hickey, Greg Forbes. Thank you, everybody, for following us on Facebook.
Greg's a huge fan of the show. Greg's one of our biggest fans, and Scott. I don't have enough time to talk about Scott on the show, so I'll talk about Scott some other time.
I'm excited to hear that.
Scott gets me in trouble.
Perfect. Season 6 starts for Flames Unfiltered. You'll get it September 17th. There'll be weekly shows all year from there on out. If we could just fast forward 3 weeks and get this hockey season going, I would be
Yeah, it's coming soon, man. It's coming soon. Next week.
I'm excited. I'm officially excited. Yeah. It's that time of the year where I walk out to the mailbox and the NHL yearbook from Hockey News is going to be in there any day. It's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And I know it's for real.
I missed the man as a kid, the NHL yearbook too, the official NHL one. Man, I love that.
Oh, the old one, yes.
Oh, the gloss, the beautiful pictures, man.
I have a whole stack of them.
I remember like Derek Morris and Dave Lowry and Val Bure and Mark Savard, Fred Brathwaite.
Holy cow. Kyle's remembering saying those were the days. Yeah, those were days. There was some long nights watching Flames hockey too.
There were short nights if you live on the East Coast and you knew you weren't going to miss anything, so you just go to bed.
We'll see you in a couple weeks. Enjoy what's left and the end of the summer hockey season right around the corner.
Can't wait.
Thanks for listening to Flames Unfiltered with Brad Burud and Kyle Lewis, your source for unfiltered Calgary Flames hockey talk. Keep it locked on flamesunfiltered.ca. Subscribe where you get all your podcasts to never miss an episode. Flames hockey talk every week, presented by Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.